You are Locked On Coogs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Paul, there's a lot of newness around West Virginia. I would argue there's very little new about Houston Cougar basketball. Right. Are there questions, because these two teams did match up a year ago, are there questions for West Virginia folks, or they feel like they know what they're getting into?
Well, I had one of West Virginia staff members send me something before the year, because the big question about West Virginia before the year was undersized. West Virginia is extremely undersized. Nobody plays small anymore. The bigs around the country were going for incredibly, $800, $900, $1 million for a big, just an average big. So big money was being spent. And then so I had somebody send me the Houston Cougars roster where nobody over 6'8", right? That was projected in the starting lineup. And sure enough, West Virginia at the start of the year, now they've moved to a little bit bigger of a lineup because Eduardo Andres come on so strong the last few weeks. We had an injury to Monty Hansberry. But, before that, we were really worried about that undersized team. Houston is everything West Virginia really wants to be. Obviously, we don't have as many scoring options as Houston does. You guys literally legit have 7-8 guys that get double figures on a given night. Whether it's Francis, Uzan, Sharp, Cryer, Tugler, Roberts. You guys truly have scoring punch all around the roster. West Virginia didn't have that. They have to have things go right for them to win. I think what I would ask you, if you were going to ask me what question I have, is do you think Houston plays bigger than 6'8"? And do they struggle in rebounding or anything like that this year? Like, have teams crashed the boards on them, gotten extra second opportunities a lot, or anything like that?
First of all, I should have started segment 2, as Mountaineer Paul likes to do, by cracking a do.
We got to crack a do in segment 2.
You got to crack a do in segment 2. Mine is not a do, and I'm not going to give away free sponsorship ideas, but maybe in segment 3 we can talk about what's in mind. No, I think you ask an interesting question, because Houston does line up with a couple 6'8" guys at center / power forward. And I think that undersells their size. And I don't mean that trying to be too terribly biased, but like Jojo Tugler listed at, 6'7" on most rosters you read. Tugler also has a 7'6" wingspan. And so like the ability to make up for being, again, 6'7", is entirely through high motor, constant energy, chaotic energy, and his wingspan is that of a much bigger player, and so he can get to the rim, get to deflections and stuff like that. It doesn't look real the first time you see him walking around. As far as the rebounding itself goes, I know it's kind of the Houston Cougar answer would be a mixed bag. They'll tell you after the last few years, this team probably isn't as strong in that as previous seasons, right? Where there was Reggie Chaney, Jarris Walker, and those group guys back in 2023, Josh Carlton and those guys the years before that. This group probably doesn't hit the glass quite like those teams, but at a national level, they're 17th in offensive rebound percentage. They do very well relative to the 340 whatever teams in college basketball, right? It's relative to their own standard. I think that people get upset sometimes. And frankly, the height question is interesting, because I do have at least one listener who comments fairly frequently. I'm sure they're typing it out right now. That that part of the problem is they don't have a 7-footer. Why don't they have a 7-footer? How can you be a Division I basketball team without a 7-footer? And truthfully, there's probably some merit to that. I really like the guys we got, though, so I'm not super concerned about it. When you say that what's the guy's name from Azerbaijan, that he's come on as of late, what do you mean by what's he been doing?
Well, you look what he did last game against Colorado. He had 12 points. He had almost 10 rebounds. He blocks a ton of shots. He's an incredible rim protector. This is a guy that came in from Fresno State that I had a coach call me and tell me he was trash, a former coach that was at West Virginia that called me after they were all fired and said, listen, they got a good roster. They're putting a good roster together. But that Andre guy they just signed is trash. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's come on and proved everybody wrong, literally everybody wrong. Like, I'll take him. Like, he really has come on. I don't know how else to put it. He's bought into what Darren DeVries wants him to do, and he plays his role well. And I think one of the things that you just don't know until you get into DeVries' offense, because DeVries plays through the five a lot, and fives distribute his offense. It's a big thing for him. So at the elbow, he's super dangerous. Kind of like Jokic, not to that level, obviously, but like how he distributes, very similar with the DeVries offense. He loves to do that, and he's really come on in that role. As a distributor, he's a rim runner. Obviously, he's not going to throw it down to him and let him score. He cleans up dirt and really just protects the rim and rebounds. I mean, he really rebounds. So he's playing his role. He's about 6'10".
He says listed at 6'11" on Sports Reference.
Might be 6'11".
Also, really sly way to drop in a former West Virginia coach. Just say, Huggy. It's cool. It's cool. You can say it. No.
Close. It's close, Huggy,
yeah. Good old Huggy. And frankly, for what it's worth, I will say one of the things while I mentioned Huggy for a second, Kelvin Sampson as a coaching legend. I really wanted when Houston came into the conference to get some Huggy versus Sampson matchups that we never got. So hopefully, you mentioned DeVries.
I truly believe he will be a legend at some point.
He had a great start at Drake, right? Great start at Drake, and is off to a good start at West Virginia.
Drake was one of the worst programs in America for a long time, and he took them to a lot.
He took them over the top. Can I ask you a question about Javon Small? I can't believe we've gotten this far into the program without mentioning his name.
Yeah.
He's getting 19 points per game, or 19.8 points per game as I read this right now. Where does he get? Is he a catch and shoot guy? Is he a drive to the rim guy? Is he a scored all three levels guy? What's he do to get 19.3?
Well, he's obviously our point guard. So here's the thing. He's playing almost 40 minutes a game. That's just start there. He is an elite defender. He does so many things well. He really does. Is he a Jamal Shed on the defensive end? No. But he is a really good defender. I would say, he's in that Javon Carter mold. Now, he's not Javon Carter either on defense. But so he is what I would consider. He's one of those 2,000 level IQ players that you see very rarely. And I mean very rarely, because he doesn't have elite quickness. He's got elite explosion. Like, he can bounce his head off the rim. But as far as quickness goes, no, he uses a lot of varying degrees of speed change. So he'll go start, stop, and get around people. But where he's really good, he's got an incredible step back jumper with the left hand, with the right shoulder to the left. He's really good with that. He can obviously drive it to the bucket. That's probably his strongest attribute. He's one of those dudes that gets incredible hang time, hangs in the air, gets the contact, and then finishes. Really good there. And obviously he's shooting in the mid-30s from three. So it's a long-winded way to say he scores at all three levels. But the biggest thing about him is he's got the clutch gene. And he has been – saying he's Mr. Big Shot is probably an understatement. West Virginia had 3 straight overtime games in the tournament in Maui versus Gonzaga, Louisville, and Arizona, and he made big shots in every single one of those games to win 2 of those 3 games. And against Kansas, he just outplayed everybody on their team. I mean, he did. He was the best player on the floor that day. Well, same against Colorado last week. I think he's the best point guard in the country right now, the way he's playing.
If his name is familiar, it's because he was at Oklahoma State last year. Houston played him at Oklahoma State last year. He gave Houston 18 points. Houston won that game pretty handily, but he had 18 points against Houston in that one. And when I think about who guards him for Houston, he's a point guard. Milos Uzan's a transfer from Oklahoma. Well, how did Milos do against him? He gave Milos 17 one time and 21 the next. The guy's going to get his points on Wednesday, even as a focal point of what Houston's trying to do to stop him. Have you seen anyone, because apparently I haven't, have you seen anyone stop him or slow him down before we talk more predictive kind of things?
He's in a great rhythm and groove right now. I will say this. because we've been so injured, we've had been in a 6-7 man rotation for so long now because Tucker's been out 6-7 games now. We have Jaden Stone, who averaged 20 points a game last year. He hadn't even played yet this year. Been out. Obviously, KJ Tenner, his backup, has been out. We do think he may be back for Houston, which is great because he's been playing 40 minutes a game and he just can't keep it up on both ends. So he's fallen off in the second half of games here lately. That's like the only thing that I can even make mention of that he doesn't do well. Like, oh my God, he can't play 100% max effort on both ends for 40 minutes.
So what you're saying is get him in foul trouble because there's no other options. I want to get to some predictive measures and look at the game a little bit more in a second. But before we get too far, today's show is brought to you by our newest buddies over at Wayfair, because after the holiday hustle, there's nothing quite like giving your home a little TLC. I find that I know you might not believe it by looking behind me, but decluttering and refreshing your space can help you get back into a good routine to start the year. Whether you're tidying up, cleaning out, or just want to give your space a new look to start the new year, Wayfair has everything you need, all within your budget. Folks who listen to Locked On Coogs know we moved and got a new house earlier this year. Got to get new furniture for the new place, right? And they had a great selection, make it easy to find all kinds of different pieces to fit the style we got and the budget we got. Important thing. And teacher and coach over here. Favorite part is the free and hassle-free delivery. Free and hassle-free are both important to me, even for larger items. Wayfair's site is so easy to navigate. We found everything we needed. No time at all. Quick finds on their site. Give your home the refresh it needs at Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's Wayfair, WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home.